on my page.
Yeah, I usually do it off of my phone here. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do here.
And we are live.
All right, we're ready. We're on.
We are ready and we are on. Man, so how you doing, brother?
Hey, it's good to be back with you, man. I look forward to this once a week, man. The Ron and John show. You know, we're known coast to coast like butter and toast, man. And both of us, I think I'm more of the gray ghost than you are right now, but I know you got a little gray coming in too, brother.
It's a little COVID-y here. Yeah. I might have to go and cut that out or something. I don't know. It usually changes color in the summertime, so I'm just going to go with that.
I hear you, man. So how you been this past week?
Good, brother. Good. Still been working on the house out here. I had a couple new additions into the garden. Put a new bird feeder up. You know, just staying doing the domestic thing. And then actually I was got to go out on a boat ride last week.
How was that, man?
Oh, it was awesome. We went out courtesy of Narrows Brewing there. And Scott Wagner took a few people so we could, maintain some social distancing. But yeah, it was good to get out there, get on the water, and kind of exercise that. It was right when they made that announcement that it was legal to do so. So I don't want anybody thinking that I'm out here, just playing hooky for no reason out there. But yeah, it was good. It was good. How was yours in Sandra's week? I know it was.
Everything was good, but brother, I was singing a song, Please, Mr. Postman, today, because I got box after box delivered to my house. I guess, the post office kind of been behind.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, ever since this, I'm getting all kinds of these.
Yeah.
And have been ever since, I called them out. And so I got like 15 entrenching tools I got to sign here, but that means that the eTool Nation is almost up to about 800 members, man. So
that's awesome. On the rise.
Yeah, and if it inspires people or makes them happy, I'll sign 1 million of them if I have to, man.
Heck yeah, and man, I'm just wondering when I get mine signed,
brother. Hey, I'll tell you what, come by, man.
I'm gonna come by and bring an eTool, and I'm gonna bring my hatchet, and you got to sign both.
Awesome. And then I got some new moonshine this week,
We got that.
Take a few snorts of that when you come over.
Absolutely. So who do we got on the show this week?
Brother, I will tell you, we have, we've had some great guests, we had Scott Stalker on, the U.S. Cyber Command NSA guy. We had Griff and Colton Smith, talking about, how being a military person and being an entrepreneur is possible. We had the spouses on. I will tell you, this one here is pretty special to me today. So our guest today is, first of all, I downloaded his bio and it almost ran my printer out of ink. But but this guy enlisted in the Air Force in March of 1989. And he's got various duties and backgrounds. He served as a professional military education instructor, and he held various senior enlisted positions while serving at squadron, group, wing, task force, and numbered Air Force levels. He's got plenty of combat and operational experience in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Enduring Freedom, and he's got overseas tours in South Korea, Japan, Germany, and Alaska. And this guy serves as the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, and he represents the highest enlisted level of leadership. He provides direction for the force, and he represents their interests as appropriate to the American public and to those in all levels in government. And I will tell you, this guy, I met him first right after I took the job as a CX, and I met him in a restaurant in Tel Aviv, Israel. He was the 3rd Air Force Command Chief at the time, and we became friends. Then he went on to U.S. Air Force Europe and U.S. Air Force Africa. And he is now serving as the 18th Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, a very personal friend of mine and just one of the absolute best non-commissioned officers that I've ever served with. Our guest this week is the 18th Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, 𝗏 Wright. Everybody knows him as K Wright. So let's bring him out, Ron. What do you think?
Let's bring him out. There he is.
There he is.
What's going on, fellas?
The man, the myth, and the legend, right?
Yeah.
At least for me it was. So I gotta share the first time that I heard his name. It was we just touched down in Fairchild Air Force Base, and we had just gotten picked up and you jump into the back there and see and John says, "Oh, let me see if I could get old K right on the FaceTime or on the phone here." And I had no idea who you were at the time. And I was like, oh, "Okay, well, let's see who this is." He says, "Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force." I said, "No way!" And next thing you know, you're you're on the phone, and the pucker factor from the two seats in front of us of these E8 and the E9 was kind of sucked the air out of the vehicle. Because they were like, "Is he really talking to him?" And that was awesome. That was awesome.
Hey, it was almost as if that they could think that you could use telepathy or something. You could tell if they were going 26 in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. They were, the driver was 10-2, and they were all, stiff after that. I said, "Hey guys, just let them know all the great work you guys are doing."
I'm so down to earth, man. I'm pretty down to earth when it comes to especially the senior NCOs, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Hey, well, thanks for being here today. The Ron and John show here, brought by Veterans Lending Group. And so, Kay, you and I spent 3 years together in the Pentagon, and we did a lot of things at the strategic level as well as the operational and tactical level. Hey, so right quick, tell us how the troops are doing. How are the nations in the world's greatest Air Force doing right now with the coronavirus going on, and then still trying to maintain readiness and everything for anybody that is trying to mess around with our freedom and our way of life? So how are they doing out there?
Yeah. So, man, the answer to that question is always, and people don't really like this answer, but really the answer is always, it depends, right? So there are pockets of places in the Air Force where airmen are doing really well, man. They've adjusted to this, what we consider new normal, working from home, dealing with the pandemic. But there are some airmen and their families, man, who are struggling. There are some airmen who might have had a spouse who lost a job. Lots of airmen are struggling with homeschooling kids, man, and trying to balance working from home, homeschooling kids, and being a spouse. The uncertainty of, we got some airmen, just like we got other service members who were in the process of PCSing. They were overseas somewhere, or who may have been AOR and deployed. But I would just tell you overall, our airmen are doing really, really well. I get a chance to get out. I don't travel near as much as I used to, and the way that you did when you were in the seat. But I get out about once a week. As a matter of fact, tomorrow I'm going up to Maynot Air Force Base to check on our nuclear folks. And I mean, they're taking this challenge head on, man. I mean, folks are finding creative ways to still get after the mission, to maintain readiness. I went down to JTF, the newly formed JTF down at Shaw Air Force Base. And NORTHCOM, General O'Shaughnessy and Paul McKenna has put them to work helping out with the pandemic. So just being able to get out and seeing, man, folks are fired up. They're doing good. But I can't gloss over the fact that we do have some airmen that are struggling a little bit. And I would just say generally, this is probably the case. Where you have good leadership, you have commanders and command teams that are staying engaged, that are checking on people, that are being flexible when it comes to working from home and all that type of stuff. Folks are probably doing pretty well. Where you have command teams who are inflexible, who are saying, "Hey, I need you logged in at 7:30 until 5:30. I don't care if you're working or not." Some of those folks are probably struggling a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, Ron, when we went to Fairchild, what Kay just said there was so important. The command climate there, driven by, the Air Base Wing Commander and the 92nd Commander and command chiefs, it was just phenomenal to me. on how motivated, how fired up the airmen were, how informed they were because of the level of engagement with the command team.
Yeah.
100%. You know, I couldn't agree more. It's, you know, like we were talking earlier in the in our little pre-show this morning, is it's been, I mean, I can't remember being around a group of individuals that were, you know, that professional, that proficient in their jobs, what they were doing. And, you know, whether that be the front desk person at the gym, whether that be the instructors there at 𝗓𝗏, all the way to, you know, those being nominated for various awards. You know, everyone just, they knew their shit. And I was just walked away there just like, wow, this was incredible. And, you know, coming from, you know, just a Ranger Tier 275, you know, I live behind a brown fence most of the time. So, you know, we don't get to see and exchange with the breadth of the different branches, you know, JTACs and you know, CCTs and stuff like that, PJs here and there. But I was just, you know, hats off to that command and leadership team there for really, you can tell when things go out, it is dissemination of information to all levels, you know, where appropriate, and that the morale is certainly one of them.
Yeah. Hey, one of the things, man, that me and General Goldfein have tried to do during our time in the seat is I think we've really been transparent, probably more transparent than any leadership team, transparent, vulnerable, you know, all that type of stuff, man. So we share as much information as we can. And we, you know, we're smart about it, right? We let the force know, hey, this is what we know. This is what we don't know. These are our assumptions. And a lot of that has spilled down to the layers all the way down to the tactical level in the Air Force, because airmen have come to expect it, that, hey, man, they want to know what's going on.
Right.
Because I feel like this, either they can get it from us or they're going to get it from Facebook. They will get it from social media, and there's lots of good stuff on social media. I use social media, and I know you guys do too. But you know, being transparent at all levels, man, has been very, very helpful. And the more command teams do that, the better airmen are.
Well, I got to say this real quick is when you well, first of all, Dave Carter jumped in there and said he's got mad respect for the Air Force. You saw that pop up there.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, is when you know. When John asked you, hey, House, what's the force like? How are the troops out there? How all the airmen? And you came out with something I was not expecting to hear. You know, you gave the good and the bad. Like, you know, you said in some areas, yeah, they're great. In other areas, it's not so great. And there's areas we can improve. And you know, not to say that someone would others would sugarcoat it, but leadership in the past at all branches, I feel, have always kind of just given a broad sweeping generality of what that is, because they're afraid of what people are going to think and say. But by you saying that, how you said it, I can see that during your tenure, how that did go through, you know, the rest. At least it did in Fairchild, and I'm sure that's going to be the same when we go to the other bases here in the future too. So hats off to that for just being real, you know.
Yeah. Thanks, man. You know, airmen, and I'll just, you know, let's just say service members, man, they're not stupid, man. They know when you bullshitting them, and when you know, we all got our talking points that we get from our public affairs and all that type of stuff, and that's great. But I mean, you got to be honest with people, man, about what's happening, because that's where, you know, helping people begins, with recognizing that, okay, this is we got some leaders out here that are fucked up, basically. And we all, the other thing is, we all, to me personally, as the senior enlisted guy, you know, I got a hand in it, right? So I'm responsible for enlisted development. So we got some folks that are in positions that probably shouldn't be in positions, that are being promoted that probably shouldn't be promoted. And so, you know, our team, man, we've been working on, you know, trying to get our enlisted evaluation system and our enlisted development tracks done right. But Ron, I agree with you, man. There's no reason to sugarcoat stuff and try to pretend like everything is, you know, all gleeful. And like I said, you know, I'm not a Debbie Downer, man. We got a lot of great airmen that are doing a lot of great things, but we got airmen that are struggling too, and that's just, you know, reality.
Right.
Hey, so I gotta ask you, brother. the Joint Chiefs of Staff, senior enlisted advisors, we were a pretty tight team.
Yeah.
Sometimes I thought my job was to make sure you guys didn't kill each other. Really, it wasn't you, but you know who I'm talking about. Trying to kill each other. But dude, you and I have always thought the same on the lethality and readiness of the force, and it starts with how people are, what they're doing every day to be physically, mentally, and emotionally prepared for what could be the worst day of their life. And you always led by example, and which is why I admire you so much. I tried to get all those, for 4 years, I tried to get all those of our brothers out there to do PT with me, and you would be the only one. Now, the ProCom guys didn't have a problem coming out and everything, but you always came out, and that was what I admired about you. As we continue to move forward, one of the things Ron and I continue to talk about is making sure that we understand that there is a mental and emotional toll that serving can take, especially, if there's been some adversity that a service member or family's been through, whether it's combat, whether it's at home or whatever. So as you've done your 4 years back here, how important was it for you to make sure that, we were setting the example for what it meant to be physically, mentally, and emotionally ready for what Ron and I like to call could be the worst day of our life?
Yeah, man. I think in 2001, I watched this movie called Remember the Titans, and there was this scene at the water cooler with Julius and Bertier. So the famous line, attitude reflects leadership, right? So that's always stuck with me, man, is that we have a responsibility to lead by example, and our teammates will go as we go. But let me specific to your question, man, let me tell you, I really had to change my mindset about this resilience and physical and mental and emotional readiness, because much like everybody else in the military, man, I grew up with a suck it up mentality. I grew up with man, life is hard and just fucking suck it up and we'll get past it and life will be okay. And but you get to a certain point, man, where sucking it up is very, very dangerous. You suck it up, and then at some point, you have a mental breakdown, or you end up with anxiety, or you end up with, being aggressive toward your family or your friends, or you end up with some type of condition that you didn't ask for. And also when you're sucking it up, you fail to make time for yourself because you end up saying stuff like, hey, man, I'll work out whenever I get a chance. I'll eat this cheeseburger and these donuts now, but I'm going to eat right when I get a chance because I'm so busy with this job or whatever it is. And so I had to take a step back and say, hey, man, I'm not going to just keep sucking it up. Right. I got it that, life is tough and we're all busy, but I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate and purposeful about my physical health, about my mental health. And I tell you what, Ron, your folks, the SOCOM community, and I know, John, you spent some time in that community as well. The SOCOM community has done a fantastic job, man, with POTUS in raising your hand and asking for help okay. You got lots of leaders out there today who are saying, hey, I'm going to see the chaplain or the psych doc on a regular basis. We've done a pretty good job of actually hiring commanders and chiefs who have had a history of mental health issues and concerns, especially related to combat. So, I think it's just extremely important. But like we were talking about earlier, man, you got to be honest with yourself. And if you've been just saying to yourself, hey, man, I'll just suck it up for all these years, and then now you're an old crusty chief and you got all these problems, you got all these challenges, you got this anxiety. And in your mind, this is what most people think. It's like, yeah, man, that's going to get me 100% disability. But man, it's also going to get your ass in the crazy house, right? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. You don't got to do all that. Do it. That's what we say. You're doing too much. Doing too much. In the community, it has started to bubble up a little bit because of, they were seeing what was happening when everyone was coming back, and I saw that big vacuum. And so I'll tell you that that's been on the table for about 10, 15 years now, 15 plus years, what you see today. It's a slow wheel still, and especially when you're at that tip of the spear, is very stubborn part of it as well. But just as the, we call Abrams charter, in the Ranger regiment is, what you being able to go out into the Army and express and share the leadership and things that you've learned behind the brown fence, in the shadows, or whatever job that you had, to share that to make the Army a better place. And in this instance, obviously, DOD across the board a better place. But I have to say hats off to, again, back at Fairchild, adjacent Hodges, and having those conversations, right? And I think when John and I were there, it was I felt like it was a little bit, not so much of a surprise, but like kind of a relief. I had so many senior leaders come up after and just say, you know what? Thank you for sharing what you shared with us. Thank you for sharing, that. Thank you for speaking about this. Thank you for not letting suicide, anxiety, PTSD, TBI, etc., be bad words to say. And we're including it in the conversation, and it feels good, to start thinking about yourself and understanding what that is.
Ron, I both of you guys, man, I can't tell you how important that is, right? Because when young service, not even young, right, but when our teammates look at us, they think, man, this guy must be perfect, man. This guy, he's had the perfect life. He's doing all gravy. And so the more we can be vulnerable, and I'll steal this from Brené Brown, the more vulnerable we can be in talking about our challenges and talking about, hey, man, I have to go see the chaplain. Me and my wife, we go to marriage counseling. We have problems just like everybody else. The more people say, okay, one, it builds credibility, right? Because people think, hey, he's just a dude just like me, man, going through the same shit. But two, it lets them see that, okay, man, I can struggle, like I'm going through this struggle right now, and I can still become a chief or the chief master in the Air Force or a sergeant major or the SEAC or a colonel or whatever, because I'm going through this. And the last thing I'll say about it is, I think we've done a good job of helping people understand that, hey, man, when you raise your hand, you're not going to lose your clearance. You're not going to be deniffed. You're not going to be you're not going to, not necessarily. Now, there are some instances where you need it, right? You need to lose your clearance. You need to be on flying status or not go into combat. But mostly, I think only about 1%, and I can only speak for the Air Force, only about 1% of people who raise their hand and ask for help actually lose a clearance or get taken off of, whatever status.
Hey, Kay, it's so refreshing to hear you say that. And Ron and I have had these discussions plenty of times. I think what we've got to get beyond to get rid of this stigma about seeking help is that understand we are in a business. I showed this earlier today, and you remember this. When I called out, I've been signing 15 of these today. And by the way, 5 of these got sent to me by somebody in the Air Force, man. So I don't know where your airmen are getting their entrenching tools, but 275 may have a shortage of them because somehow these airmen got them. I think we have to understand that the spectrum of what we do as members of this warrior class means that we're going to drop bombs on the enemy, with the greatest Air Force on the planet. We're going to shoot them in the face, or we're going to beat them to death with our entrenching tool that we need be. But we have to understand that PTSD, TBI, and the effects of being in this high-performing environment that is a life or death situation when we're overseas is a reality. And you described it very well. And hey, we just leaders have to understand, if somebody needs to go see a chaplain, if somebody needs to go see, a therapist, a behavioral health therapist, it's okay. It doesn't mean that they can't function as a pilot in that fighter aircraft, or someone on the flight line, or one of your battlefield airmen. So just refreshing to hear you say that, brother.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So I saw, well, actually, I might wait for that question a little bit later that I was going to ask.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Ron, this guy right here you know, he's like on the on deck circle to join our team.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
us that have the blue ID card, man.
Yeah,
He's right. Man. He's still got the donut on his bat, you know, and he's taking his practice swings. So, hey, you know, we've talked about this. Ron and I talk about this all the time. We talk about a lot of things, you know, see what drinking beer together does for you. But, you know, we've been institutionalized, and you know, I read your bio earlier. You've been in this thing for over 30 years. And when I got ready to leave, it wasn't so much that I was leaving as the 𝗙AC. It was that I was leaving something and a way of life that I had been associated with for well over 3 decades. So as you and Tanya get ready to move on to what's next, what's going through your mind now? And then how are you dealing with transition, and what's the future look like for you, man?
Yeah. So, you know, what's going through my mind, man, is a little bit of excitement and maybe a little bit of nervousness, but mostly excitement and you know, what's next. I feel like we've done a good job, man, of putting the Air Force on a trajectory where, you know, the airmen and the folks are doing well. So I feel pretty confident that we'll be leaving the next team 19, a good product. In terms of transition, man, let's be honest, right? I'm the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. I have a fantastic team 18, and so transition for me is easy, man, because just like everybody else, everything else, I got people babysitting me, man, telling me where to go, what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and all that. So, I mean, you probably get a better feel for the difficulties of transition from, you know, somebody that's not in one of these senior leader positions that have somebody, you know, doing basically everything for them. So the transition part is going well, and again, mostly that's because I got such a great team. I probably got, I would say, the best senior exec in the definitely in the Air Force, and Chief Master Sergeant Chris Rogers, and then the entire support team 18, man. They're just fantastic. I got a great wingman, Manny Pinheiro, the first sergeant for the Air Force. But so I'm mostly just real excited, man, about the next phase. So I'm getting ready to turn 50 in July. So I still got a whole nother life to live, man. I got 50. A lot of golf to play, a lot of scotch.
Man. Man. You shaving yet, man?
but honestly, it's been going pretty well. I tell you what the challenge has been is, you know, I'm set to retire about 18 August at this point. And so I'm in that window where I'm starting to think about medical, starting to think about the next career. But I still got a job to do, right? I still got a lot of stuff left to accomplish for the Air Force. And my philosophy has been, in these last 4 or 5 months, man, I just want to tie up all my loose ends. I don't want to start anything new and put the next chief in a position where they got to take on some great idea that I came up with in my last days. So, you know, our team, we've been busy, just all the things that we started. Let's try to finish as much as we can, and then really set the table for the next person. But sometimes, you know, you find yourself daydreaming, man. Especially now we're in this pandemic, and I've been working from home. On the days I actually have to put my uniform on, I'm like, shit, man, I got to put my uniform on.
I've got to, you know, hearing you say that, okay, you know, like John says, we do a lot of stuff with transition. I've been, you know, doing this for a number of years myself as well. And, you know, we're always trying to look for what are the best practices, right? What's the best way? When should people get prepared? When should they do this? When should they do that? Yeah. And, you know, and what I'm hearing, I know John, for some reason, where was Team 𝗙AC? I didn't hear you say shit about your team putting something together, John.
Hey, okay, so the special circumstances had a brand new SecDef and a brand new chairman that were full of piss and vinegar and ready to get out and save the world.
Yeah.
When you know, 𝗏𝗏 had like 90 days left, you know, and you know, I had to go to Afghanistan. Well, 7 countries in 6 days over Thanksgiving with the chairman. And so when I got done with that trip, man, it was 10 days later and I was done, you know? So the point being is, you know, we are driven by our bosses, and you know, all our team can help us a lot and everything, and mine certainly did. I will tell you, you know, Sergeant First Class 𝗪𝗫 𝗪𝗲 Johnson, my admin assistant, she helped me so much with my retirement stuff that I owe her. There's not enough dang moonshine in the Appalachian Mountains that I owe her now, because she really took care of me, and because my schedule didn't slow down. But then you know, the other thing was, hey, you know, others, like Kay said, don't have that, you know.
Yeah.
But others aren't in those high jobs like he and
I will say that the message that, hey, first and foremost, man, get the taps a couple of years out and go a couple of times if you're able, is good. I found it interesting. I went to taps, and I went to one of the executive tap sessions. So it was just me and a bunch of chiefs and a bunch of 06s. Man, there was some nervous people in there, man. There were some people in there that were like, oh my God, I don't know how to survive. Out on my own. I mean, I got nervous when we did the TRICARE brief. I'm like, this is a lot, man. I ain't, you know, I ain't never had to worry about shit except showing up to a medical appointment and trying to figure out all that type of stuff out, man. I'm still, and I just chose to just forget about it, right? I'm like, no need of me being stressed out about it, man. I'll figure it out someday, which is probably not the best advice.
That's actually the advice that we advise against.
yeah.
But again,
you know,
having the safety blanket of the team, man, is really the reason that I kind of took on that mentality. But I think 1 June is the window, because my official retirement is 1 December. So 1 June is when I can, you know, start doing, and I've already started doing a bunch of my medical appointments and all that good stuff. So,
you know, with that is, you know, like, so we talked about before is like, you know, so what 𝗏𝗏 was doing as far as kind of starting that, it's okay, you know, because everyone's looking at, man, what are these guys up here doing? If they're doing it, then shit, we should probably be doing that too.
Yeah.
But when you said about Team 18, and you have a whole team around you that's helping you transition and stuff like that, you know, I can't help to think that the rest of the Air Force is probably thinking, well, man, what is he doing to transition? How can I do that? Now, being that not everybody has a team, what is your thoughts? And I challenge everyone on this, but what are your thoughts in maybe creating with your team before you exit a best practices on what, because you got, you know, a whole team that's doing all these things, maybe some best practices for what airmen should be doing and when they should be looking to transition out. Because as I'm hearing you, you know, if it's anyone that's a E7 below, E8 below, that's transitioning out, they're like, well, that's great for him, but you know, not doing okay. And there's always been this battle between DOD and the VA of whose job it is and who's going to take care of the damn kids, right? DOD says we're taking care of the kids up to this point, and then it's you. And the VA says, well, shit, if you could do some more transition stuff, and they said, well, that's what we're giving you all that money for. So at some point, you know, that's where we're kind of leaning up against the flagpole a little bit, you know, and I'm glad we have John here so we can have these real discussions. Is you know, just as a suggestion, it is maybe putting some guidelines together, best practices of how airmen at what point they should kind of be looking out for their transition, their next steps. At this point, you should be looking at this, like you said, when should you be open up for your TAPS class? And I say this, and I think I'd like to see it happen with the Air Force, because I feel that the organization is set up that people would actually follow and do those things. You know, if something came out, so they follow that. Okay, this is what I'm supposed to do at this time, at this point, and then hopefully something like that will spark and ignite the fire for that to go across, you know, DOD. But it's not going to happen unless we have, you know, leaders at the top pushing it down. When John had transitioned out, and I had a little come to transition meeting with him, and kind of spilled my guts on him, like, hey, this is what we're dealing with and what's going on. I wish I had some little camera, because you see his eyes. He was just like, it was like I didn't know. he's like, I just didn't know all this shit was going on. What can I do to help? And what can we do to make that change now? Which he is, obviously we are. So what would you consider doing perhaps now that you're seeing this and hearing it, and maybe a suggestion for the next team? I know you don't want to drop a brand new idea and let them take it over, but I don't know, just what are your thoughts on something like that?
No, I think it's a great idea, man. I think, your point that there are lots of the type of information that you're talking about it is out there. It's available. It's just so disparate, right? There's a little bit here. There's people are doing this over here. I think it's really a great idea for my office, my team, to develop, along with, the folks who kind of help manage this, is, develop a basic checklist or some basic guidelines on, hey, here's when you should start thinking about transition. Here's things that you need to consider for medical. Here's what I think we need is the simplified, and this is no knock against the folks who do the briefings at TAP, but the simplified, okay, let's just try to make this as simple as possible when it comes to, TRICARE. Now, it very well could be that it's already simplified, and because I just never had to think about it, it seems complicated to me on, how to work through all that stuff.
Hey, same thing. I saw the same thing. Complicated, confusing, and I got 3 TRICARE briefs and I was still confused. And I agree with you, wholeheartedly.
No, so I think that's a good idea, man. So I'm going to run that by Chris Rogers and my team, and I also got a great teammate, Nicole Snowden, who is part of our Chiefs group, who does chief assignments, and she's really kind of been helping me with all things transition. So I'll make sure that I talk to them about, hey, what are some things that we can do to help out the force to help them get through transition. I'll tell you another thing that and really I got to credit Dan Daly, and I saw Dan, man. I went to a military education conference up in Philly, and I ran into Dan, but him putting I think it's Rick's over there now at the Department of Labor.
Chris.
Yeah, I can't remember the sergeant major that was over there prior to Chris, but having that connection with the Department of Labor that's gotten us the apprenticeships, and thinking about some of that stuff from how do we help more service members gain employment, man, that's been very, very helpful, because we finally are buying into the apprenticeship program, the US MAP. We were one of the only services. I think we were the only service who didn't have a part in it, and that's been helpful. And I tell you, I've been encouraging. I value education, man. And I did a lot of schooling myself, but I've been telling people, hey, man, let's not just send young service members to go get degrees. Let's figure out what it is that they're interested in and what they want to do, what experience they have, because an apprenticeship or a certification might be a better option than just taking classes and going to school and getting degrees that, frankly, for most of us, I got a couple of business degrees and all this other stuff and didn't have any business experience. So, sometimes, we chase this education, and there's a better option for us in terms of how it might impact us in transition. A lot of these young engineers and cyber guys and maintainers, man, they would benefit much more from a certification or an apprenticeship than they will from a bachelor's degree in HR or something that's not related to what they want to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it also comes down to, college isn't for everybody.
Right.
And I mean, some people just like to go to work or get that OJT or learn on the job doing this, that, and the other, where they want to be a machinist, but they have a brilliant mind and just smart as shit. I mean, we've served with them, around. It's like, what in the hell are you doing in the military? Well, that's awesome that they are with us, because we wouldn't be where we are. But and it's just showing options, right, of what and with interests, right? What are you interested in doing? And then let's build off of that on what other things that are out there, and come up with a plan. Just yesterday I met with a young Ranger who's transitioning. Check this out, 4-year enlistment. He's been in for 2 years. He has about another 2 years left. And he's thinking about getting out. And he says, yeah, I'm going to just go to college. So his squad leader set me up with this meeting. So his plan was to get out, go to school. He wants to do some forest management, environmental, whatever stuff, sciences. And I was like, okay, that's awesome. That's great. He says, yeah. And then GI Bill along the way. It was that, I'll just figure it out a little bit. And I said, well, awesome. So who do you know in that industry? Nobody. It seems cool. I said, well, I don't know anybody in that industry. It's a very competitive industry. If you didn't know, I do know a guy that tried it, but now he's working security at Amazon. He says, oh, I didn't know that. So I told him, I said, well, the thing is if you don't know anybody in there right now, is the time for you to get on your LinkedIn. Now start finding who those people are, network them, tell them, say, hey, I'm in the Army. I'm looking at transitioning out. This is the path I want to go on. What would you suggest someone like me do now today? And after that conversation we had of just kind of back and forth, he was just like, I didn't think about any of this. I said, I'm not trying to dissuade you. If you really want to go down this path, break brush and go do it. But you got to know what you're getting into, that you might not have a job at the end of that degree, that you might have this, or might have that. And then all of a sudden, you might be in a situation where, damn, now what do I do? Because at that point, ain't no figuring it out. And the other part was, I told them, whatever schools you get lined up, be all that you can be and do all those things, because in a year from now, 2-3 years later, whatever, you might look back and say, shit, I should have stayed in, or maybe I'm going to stay in and maybe I'm not going to and then it's just having that conversation. And he was just very thankful. And he's still 2 years out, so
we got to encourage people, man. And this is life in general. This is not just service members. We got to encourage people to be dreamers, right? And what I tell people, man, is dream big, but focus small, right? So you might want to be the 𝗙AC one day, but you're an E4, you got to figure out, how to do your job and make E5. Right. Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with being dreamers and starting to think as early as possible about, man, what is it? What is my purpose in life? What is it that I really want to do? Because that will drive what decisions you make about education, about apprenticeships, about certifications, about, what jobs you decide to take, how long you might stay in, what assignments you should take. And but sometimes when young people, when they're dreamers, when they say, hey, how can I be the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force? We kind of come down on them and say, well, you don't need to worry about that. You need to be worried about, how to be a E2 or E3 and all this other stuff, which is, I got it. That's true. But I think if you live by the philosophy, hey, man, dream big, focus small, then I think, it can help you stay on the right path and not waste a lot of time and a lot of money. Because when you're young, man, you're going to get a lot of coaching. You're going to get a lot of mentorship. You're going to get a lot of sergeant majors and chiefs and master chiefs and all that telling you and master guns and all that stuff telling you, hey, man, go to school or take this job and do this. And you're like, well, shit, the chief said it, so I might as well do it. And in your mind, you're thinking like, I fucking hate being on the staff. But
and, one of the things that I speak about all the time, Kay, you remember where my office was, where the current 𝗙AC's office is, and the tank was right next door to it. So all the high-level meetings that our bosses had and the SecDef had in there, that's where we hosted the president and everything. So all of those general officers and flag officers would come by there, and inevitably they would come in and say hi to me. And, as I was getting down towards the end, I got asked one too many times, well, what are you going to do now? You're going to go work on range control on Joint Base Lewis McChord, or get a GS job, or go work at Lowe's or something? And I thought, no disrespect to them, but I said, these MFers think I am some uneducated dude that the only thing, because I'm an enlisted guy, the only thing I can do is go work at range control. Don't get me wrong, honorable job. If people want to do that, God bless you, go do it. If you want to work at Lowe's, go do it. But finally, one final 3-star, the day before my ceremony, came in and asked me that, and he got the horns. And I told him, I said, let me tell you something, General. I'm coming for the jobs that you're going to be looking for. I said, you're going to have to fight with people like me and people like Kay Wright to get a job you want in the corporate world. Because as you mentioned, we have the requisite education. We have a lot more experience. And one thing we will always have an advantage in is the people business. because we still transcend the tactical, operational, and strategic landscape to visit people. Like you said, you're going to Minot tomorrow. I know you're not going out there to make sure they cut the grass, man. You're going out there to pulse the force, you know. Don't get me wrong, you guys got to cut grass too, you know. But so you know, so now my talking point is exactly what you said. It's okay to dream. Go out and do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Just understand that it's a competitive environment, but you know, go out and be competitive and do what you want to do. So, yeah. So, Ron, do we got any questions from the audience?
Let's see here. Our producer's gonna be popping some up. Boom. Ed Sullivan. What's up, Ed? Ed's been a regular.
Ed's here all the time, man. Ed's a regular. You know, we got to get him a bar stool with his name.
Yeah, right. That's right. I had a question for John and Chief Master Sergeant Wright. What one of the many changes I observed in the time I was in was changing uniforms. My personal favorite was BDUs. What were your favorite uniforms? Also, John, did you ever get a chance to wear or at least see the Vietnam era OG uniform when you first joined?
Okay, so I'll go first, and then Kay, I'll tour. So yeah, I wore the OG 107s my first tour in the 82nd. When I got there in 1986, they issued OG 107s, and I loved it. You know, with the jungle boots, with the green jungle boots, it was just a great uniform. You know, the BDUs was a great uniform, but I will tell you that, you know, the character of conflict continues to change, but the true nature of conflict is not changing. But as the character of conflict changes and the battlefield landscape changes, we got to make sure that troops are outfitted, truly outfitted for the mission they have to do. And I think the services do a great job of continuing to get after the uniform sequence to make sure that we're staying current with what the operational landscape looks like. What are your thoughts, Kay?
Yeah, so, man, when I first came in this job, I said, you know what, I'm not doing a goddamn thing with uniforms, man, because it's just so emotional. It's
Good on you, brother. Good on you.
Keep it real.
And I spent the majority of my time, man, working uniform stuff. And it turned out great, right? Because we took on the OCP uniform like the Army, rightfully so. I wish, to be honest, all the services would have taken it on, but and then we had some other uniform issues with our service dress that we've been working through, and we're improving our PT uniform. But I'm like Ed, my favorite uniform was BDUs. I used to starch the crap out of them, man. I you know, you couldn't tell me I wasn't the sharpest dude in the Air Force, man. I would go to, there was a barbershop on Fort Bragg, right across from the NCO club in the little shopping plaza.
Oh, and
yeah. I used to go over there, man. There was a shoe shine man in there, man. So I used to go in there and let him shine my, you know, I didn't have any hair, but I would go in the barbershop, man, and let the shoe shine man, you know, take care of my boots so I loved wearing BDUs. I liked all the uniforms. We still had the olive, we call them olive green. So I guess the OGs when I first came in '89, but I didn't get issued. They stopped issuing them maybe a class or two before I came in. So people were still wearing them my first 2 or 3 years in, but I never got a chance to wear those.
Awesome.
All right, John, are we ready for rapid fire?
I think we're ready. Yeah, we are. We're actually making really good time because we had double guests the last 2 weeks, so we're good. Yeah. So rapid fires.
I'm gonna ask the first rapid fire question on you.
All
right. You won't. I know you don't acknowledge this nickname, but you probably have the coolest nickname that the troops address you by. And I told you earlier today on our rehearsal, you know, one of your beloved command chiefs, who you know very well, and a stud sent me some pictures of you, and it's you know, in some kind of religious garb and everything, you know, with your head superimposed on it. You have this nickname, Enlisted Jesus, that the airmen have given you, man. How did this come about, man? And then when was the first time you heard this?
So So, man, it came about pretty early in my tenure. I think we came in and we started making some changes, and they weren't, at least in my mind, they weren't big changes, but apparently they were things that the force had been looking for and were excited about. So I think after the third thing that we changed, somebody put a post on social media and said, man, this guy fixed this, he improved that, and then he changed this. Basically, he's enlisted Jesus. And and then from there, man, it just went like buck wild, right? So people, I mean, there were memes and they've gotten so much better. You know, I see them now, man, and I'm like, man, that's pretty daggone good. But what I always say to people, man, is how can you not be humbled by something like that people see you in that fashion? But I do stand by, you know, what you said, man. I don't promote it. I never tried to tell people don't do it. You know, I don't mind kids having fun. I personally won't put any of it on my social media or on my page. I won't sign anything that has it, because I do realize that while it's funny to me and it's all in great spirit, that it could be offensive to some people religiously. So I just ask people to keep that in mind. But I mean, I'm truly humbled, and I laugh. You know, my team, they send, every time a new one pops up, man, they send it to me. And I send it to my mom, and she's like, whatever, get out of here and come over here and take this trash out.
Oh man, this is gold.
That's insane, man.
I just Googled.
Hey, that was one that got sent to me today too.
Oh, y'all, if anybody watching the show right now, you got to Google enlisted Jesus. I mean, it just pops right up with him. Like, it's not like I'm going. Oh man. Okay. Next question.
Could be worse, right? Could be an enlisted devil. So.
Hey, so
That's great.
Hey, we got a new service, man.
Yeah,
we do.
We got
what's going on with that?
Now, you know, I think you and Roger Toberman both owe the Army a big thank you, okay? Because you guys, you know, the Air Force was born out of the Army, you know, and now the Space Force is born out of the Air Force. So we got this new service going on, man. But the first thing I heard about the Space Force, man, is that folks are wanting to join it because they said if you're weightless in space, you can't be overweight and end up on the fat body program, man. So I know Toby's going to have my ass for saying that, man. But what's going on with that, man?
Man, you know what? I tell you what, this is a very, very exciting time. General Raymond, the Chief of Space Operations, and Toby Toberman, man, so he hadn't really decided. I want to call him the Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force, but he's still working through what his E9 rank is going to be. So he might not have Chief Master Sergeant. So right now he's just a senior enlisted advisor to the Chief of Space Operations. But man, Toby's a good friend of mine. We've been working together for years. I'm so excited for him and General Raymond and all of the professionals that are in the space business, because I mean the sky, there is really no limit, man, to the wonderful things that they'll be able to do. They'll be a small service, and they're still working through, you know, the relationship, much like the Navy and the Marine Corps, how the Air Force might support the Space Force. We're in a phase right now where we're giving airmen an opportunity. We tried not to drag by force anybody over into the Space Force. So even the space professionals, the space operators, both officer and enlisted, we didn't want to say, okay, like it or not, you're going to the Space Force. We gave them all the option to opt in and come over to the Space Force. So we're in that phase right now. We'll also be bringing over or asking some of our intel professionals, some of our cyber professionals, some of our weather professionals, some of our missile maintainers, not the nuke guys, but the guys who kind of maintain the launch, who are in the launch business and maintain those rockets. But So yeah, man, it's exciting. It's exciting having another SEL to work along. Yeah. We're starting to do to co-chair lots of things. Just making sure, man, that he receives the same rights, and benefits as myself and Sergeant Major of the Army, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, the 𝗏𝗏𝗏, the 𝗏𝗏𝗏, and all that good stuff. So yeah, this is gonna be good, man.
Nice. Well,
awesome.
I got a question for you. This actually has to do with John. So when he held up that paper, you know, with him, you knew what that meant right away, right?
Yeah.
So my question, there it is, surrender or die. So when John had to wear the dunce cap for 6 months after doing that, and he had to sit in the corner and watching Days of Our Lives and As the World Turns.
Yeah.
What was your support for John like?
Man, I tried to call John about I think it seemed about every 2 weeks or so. I would call or text just to check in, man, to see how he was doing, to see what the status was and if he needed anything, and really just to give him an opportunity to to offload, because he did tell me, he's like, "Okay, right, I'm in the corner, I'm fucking watching Days of Our Lives, man. I'm down here." And you know, sometimes, man, as a friend, that's all you need, right? You can't always provide anything tangible, but just being able to pick up the phone and express what you're going through, man. I hope that was helpful. I just tried to the entire time, man, let him know that I was thinking about him and that I was there to support him. So and I know I didn't call as often as I could have, but I wanted to make sure that he understood, man, that, you know, we were still teammates. And
yeah.
Hey, brother, you had a day job, man. But I will tell you what I was so grateful for is, you know, the day I got suspended and it hit the press. You called me, your boss, you know, General Goldfein called me, General Walters, you know, who had 𝗓𝗍𝒄𝒴, you know, you know, he was a 𝗓𝗍𝒄𝒴 U.S. Air Force Africa at the time, now the Yukon commander, and just all of General Slife, you know, the AFSOC, who he was really one of my kind of mentors through the whole process. But just how people opened up, and, you know, and the message I would get from you and Ron Green and Dan Daly and you know, Jason Vanderheyden and Kepner, you know, and all the guys. It meant so much to me that I just told myself, I'm not going out this way, man. I got too many people that are behind me here, and I'm going to make sure I get back in the game and finish this thing out right. So I really appreciated it, man.
Yeah, man.
All right. So my last question for you is this.
I got to follow on. I just got to follow on. It's a quick.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
So when you heard the speech yourself, right, were you like, oh shit?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I was like, no, I was like, what the fuck is John talking about, man?
Hey, I was just doing
truth and living, right? Truth and living. I grew up in the Air Force as a medic, man, as a dental guy. The first thing I had to figure out was, what the fuck is an entrenching tool?
Yeah. And I got airmen sending them to me all the time now.
Yeah. But actually, and then I thought, because I tell you what, man, so real world, I thought, like, man, that's bold. And I like it because, man, I grew up admiring guys like Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali and Bruce Lee, you know, folks who were very convicted about their position in life and who spoke their mind even when it wasn't popular. And so I had a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for John for being convicted, because in that particular instance, man, with all of that type of stuff, the pressure of people saying, hey, you shouldn't be saying this, or, you know, all this type of stuff, you know, you could have easily said, yeah, you're right, I should. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be open-minded about, you know, taking feedback and stuff. But, you know, I respect you, man, for taking your stance. And like I said, being convicted about, you know, how you see this particular issue. And I also enjoyed your drop the mic moment at your retirement, the transition ceremony, man.
Well, I didn't, you know, that was it. When you're done, you're done. And I said, okay, they can't make me retire because I am retired now, and they can't make me come back, you know, because what are they going to do with me? I said, I'm gonna say this here, but you know, I just wanted to make sure, because we had these discussions several times about how things can be in Washington, D.C., and how, you know, the troops, the further they're away from Washington, D.C., sometimes the less informed they are. And sometimes it may look like they're seeing things in the operational environment in the Middle East or in the Pacific a lot different than potentially they are in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know, I would have never said something like that if it wasn't for Secretary Mattis. You know how he was, man. You remember the first time we went in and seen him, and he said, "We ain't talking about defeating the enemy. We're talking about annihilating." Okay, so go out and tell him, I don't want to hear this defeat word. It's annihilate. And you know, when I first started saying it, you know, Mattis and I were doing town halls, and then when the press, the kind of press that got upset about it, General Dunford was on the stage with me. And so was Medal of Honor recipient Flo Groberg. Me and Flo both had entrenching tools in our hands, you know. But I just wanted the troops to understand that we still fully understand the fight they're in around the world there. And I wanted to make sure that wasn't forgotten. Yeah. And plenty of backlash, man. But anyways, hey, so I got my last question for you is this. You're a big social media guy, but, you know, I really like watching your social media because you post some stuff when you're relaxing. And generally you have your favorite adult beverage and you have a cigar, man. So I know all the traveling you've done the last 4 years. What is a perfect night? You get back home to the quarters there, you know, on Andrews, and you're sitting there relaxing, you know, catching up with Tanya and everything. What are you drinking and what are you smoking, man?
So, man, I tell you what I'm drinking is there's a bourbon called Uncle Nearest. And Uncle Nearest is a bourbon, man. It's only been in production about 3 years. But Uncle Nearest was he was a slave, actually, who was a distiller in Tennessee. And he taught Jack Daniels, when Jack Daniels was about 8 years old, he took him under his wing and taught him how to distill Tennessee whiskey. And so there's a brand of bourbon you can catch it in Shopette and in most liquor stores. It's called Uncle Nearest. There's a 1856 version that's kind of finished in some maple charcoal barrels, and then an 1884 that's not as smooth, but it's pretty good. And then my favorite cigar, man, is it's called an Andalusian Bull. It's a pretty big cigar, so it'll take you about two hours or so to smoke, but really smooth, man. It's a Nicaraguan cigar made by 𝗲 Dominicana, and so yeah, that's a perfect evening for me, man. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go do that when we get off this thing, man. I'm going out here on my patio and I'm going to practice. Yeah.
Oh man.
So you know, we never like to talk about ourselves. You know, that's just something, selfless service is something that we live by. But, you know, you're pretty soon here, you're going to be starting your, you know, kind of your exit address to the troops and everything as you continue to move forward. So we're going to give you an opportunity here, man, Ron and I, to kind of do a small little reflection, and then what message do you have for the troops as you begin to pave the way for, you know, CMSAF 19 to come in?
Yeah, man, I think my message would be, you know, real simple, and it's just to say thank you. I'm really floored, man, by the level of professionalism, the expertise from kind of like what Ron was saying, from our folks who work in customer service desks at gyms and at lodging, to the Russian linguists and, you know, the special warfare airmen, our combat controllers, and everything in between, man. The folks who are doing the training. I mean, we just got some incredible young service members, man, who are incredibly talented, incredibly smart, incredibly dedicated. And my boss always likes to say this thing. He says, "Hey, we sleep well at night because you guys don't." And I couldn't agree with him more. All of our folks out on the front lines, man, that are getting after the business of protecting this nation. I just owe them a simple thank you. And I really, really appreciate it. I enjoy learning what they do. I enjoy seeing the dedication. I enjoy helping them out. I particularly enjoy dealing with our wounded warriors and some of our airmen that are going through significant challenges. I lost a good friend, an airman by the name of Isaiah, who lost his battle with cancer. He had terminal cancer. And he passed away a couple of weeks ago. But just seeing the level and he was one of those same guys, man. He was a cyber professional who was just fighting it to the end, man, and remained a professional. And him and his wife, Erin, we all became pretty close. But let me just say thanks for being such dedicated professionals and being such good teammates to me. And and really to all of us, I definitely appreciate it. And I'll just always have mad respect, man, for all of our service members.
That's awesome. Ron. Yeah, man, K. Wright, that was that's good stuff, man. Really appreciate you coming on the show today. I sent you a Facebook request, so hopefully I get get on that short list or something. I already wrote down 𝗪𝗆𝗪𝘆, and I didn't have enough room to write down the cigar, so I'll be doing some follow-up with you.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Oh man, well that's pretty much our time today. But again, thank you so much for coming along, and to everyone else out there, on behalf of Veterans Lending Group and the Ron and John Show, we thank you so much for joining us. All across the country and really all around the world. We know this is sponsored by Veterans Lending Group. So if you or your loved ones are doing a PCS move, retiring, ETSing, and looking for a new purchase, let us know. And also, this is the era for refinances, right? So IRRRLs are going out there rampant, and been getting calls all day long on that. So if you want to make sure that you are getting taken care of, getting scored away, give us a shot, give us a chance to get out there and do something about it. When people say, well, what makes us different than anybody else? We are the special operations and VA financing. Period. All right. With that, we thank you all. We look forward to seeing you all tuned in next week. Man, it's just, like you said, John, we're having some fantastic guests. What do you got for them, John?
Hey, when you have enlisted Jesus on the show, it cannot be any better. Okay, right. My brother, my friend, my confidant, man, we've spent time around the world together. But the best times I'll remember is the things we did in the Pentagon, whether it was over on Congress, on the Hill there, or in front of the Pentagon press corps, taking some of the hard questions there, or just what we were doing on a daily basis to get after taking care of the men and women of the U.S. Armed Forces. Thank you so much, my friend. And I'm going to get some Uncle Nearest, and I'm going to send you a picture of me, torquing some down, man.
There you go.
Ron and I are doing it together, so we'll see how that turns out.
Hey, man, thank you guys, man. I appreciate it. I'll catch up with you later.
All right. All right.
Man.
You're right.
All right, Ron, I'll see you next week.
See you next week, brother.
All right. Have a great week.